Something quiet happens after an inner shift that few people talk about. There is a strange calm, but also a hollow space where noise used to be. Conversations feel thinner. Rooms feel larger. Even familiar faces seem slightly farther away. It can arrive without warning, after insight, after relief, after feeling closer to truth. That is often when the loneliness begins. This can feel confusing, even unfair. Clarity was supposed to bring comfort, not distance. Awareness was meant to open life, not narrow it. So the mind turns inward and wonders what went wrong, what mistake was made, what flaw has been revealed. But this loneliness is not a failure of character or effort. It is a response to change. When something deep shifts, the world does not adjust at the same speed. There is a pause where old connections loosen before new ones form. That pause can feel like emptiness. After that quiet shift, something else often follows. The people who once felt like home now feel slightly out of reach. Not wrong, not unkind, just no longer close in the same way. Shared jokes land softly. Old stories feel distant. It is not anger or judgment. It is a gentle mismatch that cannot be argued away. This creates a quiet grief that is easy to dismiss. Nothing dramatic has happened. No doors were slammed. Yet something meaningful has changed. The heart notices before the mind does. There is a sense of standing in the same room, speaking the same words, but listening from a different place. Trying to force the old closeness only deepens the ache. Letting it be creates space for understanding. This distance is not rejection. It is an invitation whose meaning has not fully shown itself yet. It waits quietly, shaping something new beyond familiar expectations. With time, a heavier thought can settle in. It begins quietly, almost politely, then grows louder in the background. The feeling that life has moved on without you, that something was taken and nothing given back. Others seem comfortable, busy, surrounded, while you stand still, watching from a distance. This can feel like punishment, as if honesty cost too much, as if seeing clearly meant being set aside. There may be moments of resentment that feel shameful to admit, moments of asking why growth came with this price. The mind searches for someone to blame, even itself. But this feeling is not proof of abandonment. It is a misunderstanding born from standing between worlds. You are not behind, you are early, paused in a place that has not learned how to name you yet. That waiting carries meaning, even when it feels empty, silent, unfair, and impossible to explain fully. Something subtle shifts when awareness deepens. It is not louder speech or brighter ideas. It is a change in presence. When you enter a room, you may feel it before anyone else does. Conversations slow. Jokes land differently. People respond with a slight hesitation they cannot explain. Nothing is said, yet something has changed. This happens because awareness alters how attention moves. You listen more than you perform. You pause where others rush. Your energy no longer pushes outward to be accepted. It rests. That rest changes the rhythm of interaction. Social spaces are built on shared pacing, shared assumptions, shared urgency. When one person steps out of that current, the field adjusts. This does not mean something is wrong with you. It means the system is responding. Like water flowing around a still stone, relationships reorganize themselves. Some move closer, others drift. The distance is not personal. It is mechanical, quiet, and natural. Awareness bends the room without effort, and gravity does the rest. This is why blending in begins to feel impossible without effort, because effort would mean leaving awareness behind, and the body quietly refuses that return once it has tasted stillness, clarity, and a truer alignment. Trying to explain this change can feel frustrating. Words that once flowed now feel heavy. The experience lives inside sensation, not language. When you speak about it, faces stay polite, but distant. Questions come that miss the point. You may stop mid-sentence, unsure how to continue. This gap is not a failure of intelligence or courage. It is a timing issue. Inner shifts often happen before language catches up. There is a period where meaning is felt, but not yet formed. Speaking too soon can feel exposing. Staying silent can feel lonely. So you learn to carry it quietly, not because it is unimportant, but because it is unfinished. This silence is temporary. As understanding settles, words will arrive naturally. Until then, the gap simply marks growth in progress. It does not separate you from others. It only asks for patience, while inner meaning finds a shape that fits. Along with distance, another feeling can appear. Interactions that once excited you now feel flat. There is no drama, just a quiet draining. Small talk feels heavy. Old routines feel repetitive. You may wonder if something inside has gone dull. This is not apathy. It is sensitivity changing. What once fed you no longer matches your inner appetite. The mind may judge this as ingratitude or boredom. The heart knows it is refinement. Energy pulls back from what no longer nourishes it. In that withdrawal, space opens. Something unnamed begins to form beneath the surface. It does not rush. It does not announce itself. The emptiness is not a loss. It is a clearing, preparing room for a different kind of connection, one that has not arrived yet. For now, the tiredness simply signals an ending of old nourishment and the beginning of something quieter, deeper, and more truthful inside. When discomfort appears, the mind moves quickly to explain it. It scans memory, labels symptoms, searches for causes. It asks whether something is wrong, whether a mistake was made, whether this feeling should be fixed. This habit once protected you. It solved problems, prevented danger, kept life moving. But not every form of pain is an error. Some sensations arrive because something is changing shape. The mind, trained to repair, treats all discomfort the same. It does not know how to sit with a process that has no clear solution. So it diagnoses growth as damage. It names awakening as loss. It frames quiet as emptiness. This creates extra suffering that did not belong to the original feeling. When pain is met without urgency, something softens. Sensation becomes information rather than threat. The body relaxes its defense. Thought slows. Space opens around the feeling. This does not mean ignoring pain or pretending it is pleasant. It means allowing it to exist without accusation. Some experiences are not problems to solve. They are signals to witness. When the mind stops chasing conclusions, awareness deepens. What felt alarming begins to feel meaningful. Not because it changed, but because it is not attacked. Growth is often imagined as opening outward, like light or freedom. When it does not feel that way, confusion appears. Instead of expansion, there is tightness. Instead of joy, there is weight. This contrast can feel alarming, but growth frequently moves inward before it moves wide. It pulls attention away from noise and towards subtle sensation. That inward turn can feel like loss because familiar markers fall away. Old excitement fades before new meaning arrives. This middle space is uncomfortable because it has no story yet. The mind wants progress to be visible and immediate. It wants proof. When proof does not appear, doubt fills the gap. Discomfort here is not resistance, it is adjustment. The system is learning a new balance. Muscles release habits. Emotions reorganize their signals. Nothing is wrong, even when nothing feels right. Clarity often arrives later, quietly, without announcement. It settles after the body finishes recalibrating. What felt heavy becomes stable. What felt closed becomes deep. The delay is part of the design, not a mistake. That unfolds in time. As awareness shifts, a quiet fear can surface. It is not dramatic but steady. The sense that who you were is slipping away. Habits no longer fit. Reactions feel unfamiliar. You may wonder who you are becoming, or if you are becoming anyone at all. This uncertainty can feel like falling. The old self had edges, roles, and reference points. It knew how to move, how to respond, how to belong. Letting it loosen creates a moment without footing. Fear here does not mean something has gone wrong. It means identity is rearranging. The parts that were built to survive are resting. The parts that listen more deeply are waking. Nothing essential is being erased. What is fading was shaped by pressure, expectation, repetition. What remains is quieter, less defined, but more honest. This space can feel empty because it is not crowded with labels. Yet within it, something real is gathering strength. The absence is not a void. It is room. Room for breath, direction, and a self that it's not rushed to appear. Being alone is often interpreted as something done to you. Isolation carries the feeling of being pushed away, forgotten, or left outside the circle. It tightens the chest and fills the mind with questions about worth and belonging. Isolation feels cold because it is rooted in rejection, real or imagined. Solitude is different. Solitude is not about absence of people, but presence of self. It is a space that forms when attention turns inward without fear. In solitude, nothing is demanding performance. Nothing is asking to be explained. The nervous system softens because it is no longer scanning for approval. What looks the same from the outside feels very different inside. One is shrinking. The other is settling. Isolation drains energy. Solitude gathers it. One asks what is wrong with me. The other asks what is emerging now. This distinction matters because fear collapses everything into rejection. It tells a story where aloneness means failure. Solitude gently interrupts that story. It suggests that this space serves a purpose, even if that purpose is not yet clear. The quiet is not accidental. It is functional, temporary, and meaningful. It exists to protect growth, while deeper layers slowly reorganize themselves within you. After awakening, meaning arrives quickly, sometimes too quickly. Insights stack on top of each other. Realizations open doors before the body has time to rest. Silence then becomes necessary, not as avoidance, but as integration. Silence allows what has been seen to settle into the nervous system. Without it, understanding stays in the mind and never reaches the bones. Quiet moments give emotions space to recalibrate and release excess tension. This is where growth becomes embodied rather than imagined. In silence, nothing new is added. That is the point. The system digests what is already there. Like sleep after a long day, silence repairs without effort. It restores rhythm and coherence beneath thought. Trying to stay constantly stimulated can overwhelm this process. Too much meaning too fast creates confusion, not wisdom. Slowing down is not regression. It is respect for the pace of integration. Silence may feel empty, but it is active. Beneath the stillness, connections are being rewired. Old reactions loosen new responses take shape. The quiet is doing work that noise would interrupt. Nothing is wasted here, even the pauses, because they allow wisdom to arrive gently, without force or pressure, and without unnecessary strain on the system. During this quiet period, it can be hard to trust that anything is happening. Progress is invisible. There are no clear signs, no milestones to point at. Yet beneath the surface, something steady is rebuilding itself. Old patterns are loosening their grip. Reactions that once felt automatic begin to pause. Values rearrange quietly. What matters shifts without announcement. This rebuilding does not rush because it is forming a stable foundation rather than a performance. The self being shaped here is less reactive and more rooted. It listens before it moves. It does not need constant affirmation to exist. This is why it takes time. Depth grows slowly, away from attention. Connection will return, but it will feel different. It will not be based on filling a gap or easing loneliness. It will arise from resonance rather than need. That difference matters. For now, reassurance comes not from proof, but from noticing subtle changes. A calmer response, a clearer boundary, a quieter confidence. These are signs of reconstruction, gentle and ongoing. Nothing is stalled. The quiet is working faithfully, preparing you for relationships that meet you where you truly stand. In time, this groundwork supports connection that feels honest and sustainable. After a deep inner shift, familiar patterns begin to slow. Habits that once provided comfort lose their pull. Reactions that felt natural now feel heavy. This can create a quiet longing for the person you used to be, the version of you that moved easily through life without so much awareness. This power down is not a punishment. It is a protective pause. Old patterns were built for earlier conditions, earlier fears, earlier needs. They did their job. Letting them rest does not erase their value. It simply means they are no longer needed in the same way. During this phase, it can feel like something essential has been taken away. Energy drops, certainty fades, familiar motivation disappears. But nothing true is being lost. What is falling silent were coping mechanisms, not your core. This pause creates room for something more aligned to form. The system clears outdated responses so new ones can emerge. What mattered before still lives within you, refined rather than removed, waiting to return in a quieter, wiser shape later on. After old patterns quiet down, desire often goes silent too. Goals that once energized you feel distant. Ambition fades. Pleasure flattens. This can be frightening, especially in a world that measures health by motivation and momentum. But this neutral space is not emptiness. It is recalibration. Desire is reorganizing itself at a deeper level. The system is no longer chasing stimulation. It is listening for resonance. This phase can feel like nothing is wanted. In truth, wanting is changing shape. Old wants were fueled by habit, comparison, or survival. As those drivers relax, desire pauses. It waits for clarity. There is no need to force direction here. Forcing only recreates old patterns. Trust grows when you allow neutrality to exist without labeling it as wrong. Slowly, new preferences begin to surface. They arrive quietly, without urgency or pressure. They feel cleaner, simpler, more honest. This stillness protects that emergence. It gives desire space to become true rather than loud. In time, it guides action that feels natural, grounded, and aligned with your deeper rhythm inside. This phase often feels lonely because it cannot be easily shared. When you try to explain it, words feel thin. The experience does not translate well into conversation. Others may listen politely, yet something essential remains unspoken. This does not mean you are meant to do this alone forever. It means the process is internal. External validation cannot complete it. Advice cannot speed it up. Comparison cannot clarify it. What is happening is too personal, too embodied to be confirmed from outside. There is wisdom in this privacy. It protects the shift from being shaped by expectation. It allows change to unfold without interference. Growth that is rushed or constantly explained often bends itself to fit others, losing its truth along the way. Patience here builds trust with yourself. You learn to rely on inner signals rather than approval. This strengthens a quiet confidence that does not depend on agreement. Connection will return when alignment replaces explanation. When your inner state stabilizes, resonance will find you naturally. Until then, this phase asks for companionship with yourself, steady and kind, knowing that future connections will meet you more honestly than before in ways that feel calm, mutual, and grounded over time. Staying open during this quiet phase does not mean forcing yourself back into spaces that no longer fit. It means remaining available to life without abandoning your inner truth. There is a difference between closing your heart and protecting it while it adjusts. The fear of permanent isolation often pushes people to rush connection, to re-enter old patterns just to feel included again. But belonging that costs self-respect creates a deeper loneliness. You may notice an instinct to withdraw completely, to disappear until clarity returns. That too can become a form of avoidance. Trusting the quiet means allowing contact without attachment to outcome. You can be present without performing. You can listen without needing to explain yourself. You can show up without shrinking your awareness to match the room. This balance keeps the heart open while honoring the change within. Connection does not need to be hunted. When openness is paired with patience, life responds naturally. Relationships find their rhythm again, not through effort, but through alignment. What returns will not feel forced. It will feel appropriate, simple, and mutual in its own time. As you move through life now, you may notice that situations respond differently to you. The same actions produce new outcomes. You speak less, yet are heard more clearly. You act with less urgency, yet things still unfold. This is not withdrawal. It is a shift in participation. Life is meeting you where you are, not where you used to be. The pace has changed because your attention has changed. You do not need to search for direction aggressively. Small movements are enough. A walk taken without distraction. A conversation entered without expectation. An invitation accepted or declined with honesty. These gentle choices signal readiness without pressure. They allow life to approach rather than be chased. Forward movement now looks quieter, but it is real. Momentum continues, guided by responsiveness rather than force. This way of moving builds trust because it feels natural, not imposed or driven by fear. Over time, meaning begins to return in subtle ways, not as a sudden wave of purpose, but as small moments that feel right. A sense of ease in a conversation, a quiet interest that holds your attention, a calm satisfaction after choosing rest instead of urgency. These signs are easy to miss if you're waiting for dramatic change. Meaning now speaks softly. It does not demand belief. It invites noticing. This return is not about excitement. It is about steadiness. Life begins to feel less like something to solve and more like something to inhabit. Presence replaces pressure. Simplicity replaces striving. Nothing announces that the shift is complete. You simply find yourself less tense, more settled, more receptive. That is the signal. The quiet has done its work. Meaning is no longer something you chase. It meets you where you stand, unfolding gently, leaving room for interpretation, curiosity, and continued growth without urgency or demand. Seen from this place, aloneness begins to soften. What once felt like exile now feels like a pause filled with care. Nothing was taken from you. Nothing essential was removed. Life was not correcting you or pushing you aside. It was creating space for something more honest to emerge. You were never behind. You were never abandoned. You were adjusting to a deeper rhythm that could not be rushed. The quiet was not a sentence. It was a shelter. It allowed old noise to fade so a truer signal could be heard. Self-compassion grows when you stop arguing with your own timing. There is relief in realizing that confusion did not mean failure, and solitude did not mean rejection. It meant preparation. It meant respect for a process that unfolds inwardly before it shows itself outwardly. From here, aloneness no longer needs to be feared or explained away. It becomes a place of listening rather than judgment, a place where you can rest without apology. The journey does not end here. It continues with gentler steps, guided by trust instead of pressure, unfolding naturally as life meets you again in ways that feel steady, aligned, and quietly meaningful forward. There may be no final answers here, and that is intentional. What remains is a sense of being accompanied rather than instructed. The path ahead does not require certainty, only presence. You are not asked to figure everything out before taking the next breath. This moment is enough. Understanding can arrive later in pieces through lived experience. For now there is value in simply being with what is real. The quiet no longer feels empty. It feels shared. If this space feels gentle, let it. If questions remain, let them rest. Life continues beyond these words, meeting you in ordinary moments with subtle guidance. Nothing more is demanded. You are not alone in this pause. The unfolding will continue, step by step, shaped by honesty, patience, and a growing trust in your own rhythm. That rhythm will carry you forward, gently, without force, toward connection that feels true and lasting.